Welcome back to the Team Nerd Tech Show with your host, Tim Gillen. I am Ruthie Kierwin. We're going to move in now to Tech Gadget. And I wanted to talk to you today about how, spoiler alert, Google is really listening and recording us on our apps. Like, who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
We have this link that you sent me here today from usatoday.com, but also, I mean, it's not exactly breaking news. It just kind of, this article from USA Today breaks it down, really, what exactly Google is doing. So can you tell me how are they recording us? Because they say in a lot of ways that they're not, but they really are. So can you explain the kind of more insidious kind of ways that Google is tracking us in real time?
And in this way, Google is exactly the same as Apple with Siri. And in this way, and the same with Amazon with Alexa. They're exactly the same, but they have to be. So think about this. You're in your car and you say, hey, Google, call my office. Or you say, hey, Siri, call my whatever. Or you say you're home and you say, hey, Alexa, play this music.
Yeah.
How does it hear you? Well, it has to be listening all the time. And they're going to say, well, we don't pay any attention till you say, hey, Siri. But
yeah, they say listening. They have a wake word. And
they have a wake word. That's what just kind of turns it on so it responds to you and knows to actually obey what you're telling it to do.
Yeah.
But it has to be listening all the time, obviously.
To hear the wake word.
Yeah, there's no, I mean, how else would it know? So it's listening all the time. And so they end up recording a lot. Now, there's been stuff back and forth between both Google and Apple. And I think Amazon also, where it turns out they were listening a lot more than what they said they were and had people listening to recordings. Now, they were doing this allegedly so that they could do a better job of making sure that commands were routed properly. But they heard people with having intimate conversations. They heard drug deals. They heard crime stuff. They heard uncomfortable conversations among family members. All this kind of stuff that you're thinking, oh, wait a second. Very awkward. I didn't buy this for that. But you kind of did. Because it can all be machine learning. The machine learning is all started by people telling the machine what to learn and how. Keep this in mind. So before Apple knew enough, when you said, Siri, show me a map to this theater, that someone had to be able to program Siri to say, here's what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Bring up this app. Show me a map too. I got to look and see where I'm at right now. I got to look and see where this theater is, and I got to put it together, the driving directions, and I got to put that up on the phone. There's about 5 things that have to happen there. We expect it instantaneously, or we think it's a crappy system. And Apple knows that we have to think, and Google, they all know if it's not near instantaneous, nobody will use it.
Mm-hmm.
They'll all roll their eyes at how silly it is. So there's humans that are involved in learning this, and this thing is listening all the time. And the way that they make it better is they do a lot of recordings, and then they compare how long did this take for us to do this? How can we make it better? Well, Tim, that sounds great that they need to make it better. Sure they do.
But
so they're listening
in order to get
awkward.
there,
right. Yeah.
Well,
so that's why. That's what they're doing. And so that this article we have on the USA Today tech section, which is actually has a lot of good stuff on it and a lot of good consumer everyday type stuff. I like it. I keep an eye on it. And but they talked about how much Google's actually listening all the time.
How much they actually are listening. Yeah.
They actually are. And you can insert, again, Amazon Alexa and Apple Siri.
Anything.
It's interchangeable. They all have to do this. It's the only way that they can work. Keep this in mind now. And so if you want to be able to say across the room, and then maybe you've wired your phone up as a smart home, hey, Google, turn up the temperature 2 degrees. Or, hey, Siri, turn the lights down in the family room. The only way that can happen is if it's listening all the time. So let's just keep in mind, as it says in this USA Today tech article that we have here, that for Google, for Amazon Alexa, for Apple Siri to work, for those voice command things to work, they have to be listening all the time. You can't just say across the living room, hey, Alexa, turn on this music if it's not always listening.
If it's not always listening for you to say that. So, and by design, listening to everything else you're saying.
It's going to be, in theory, it's only going to spring to life when it hears, hey, Alexa, but it must listen all the time so that it knows to spring to life when you say, hey, Alexa.
Yeah.
And so they record a lot of it so that they can do their own fine tuning to make sure it only springs to life at the right time. And when it springs to life, it does what you want it to. So it's listening all the time. And so there's another privacy issue. Think about how much you want this to actually do anything. Just know what's happening there. And it would be nice if they had a little button on the front that could turn it off.
Yeah, that would be handy.
They don't, because they don't want to do that. They want to be able to listen all the time so that they can use that to make it better. But then you become part of the grand experiment of voice-activated artificial intelligence. So,
My husband has an Irish accent, as you know, because he's from Ireland, and Alexa can never understand him. And also my 3-year-old speaks with a lisp, and he doesn't pronounce words correctly. And so Alexa doesn't understand him either. And sometimes I want to be like, if you're listening to everything else we're saying, can't you listen to the fact that Alexa in this house needs Alexa?
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, you'd think.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Yeah. They're not quite as far along as we'd like them to be.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Tim. Well, thank you for hanging out with me again this week and solving the world's tech problems one issue at a time. Let's hang out again next week and discuss more, okay?
Sounds good to me. Thanks.
All right, thanks.